Before we get into the episode, please could you do me a favour and hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast. You'll be actively helping our community to grow and for us to reach more people, and it allows us to get great new guests on for future episodes.
Art versus the algorithm with Will Preisner.
Welcome to episode 11 of Art versus the Algorithm. I'm your host, Will Preisner, and this episode is, without a doubt, the most important podcast I've done so far for aspiring models. It's a masterclass for models looking to elevate their craft and career. Whether you're a model, creative, artist, or interested in the evolving world of art and technology, there's something here for you. In this episode, I'm joined by Laetitia Bouffard-Roupe, a professional model, ballet dancer, acrobat, and fitness expert whose inspiring journey takes us from the discipline of ballet to the freedom found in acrobatics and on to developing a deeper understanding of femininity through art modelling. Laetitia shares how she blends movement, strength, and vulnerability to create visual stories that go far beyond aesthetics. We also explore her new book, Unseen, which delves into hidden layers of femininity and self-expression, alongside her innovative Art Model Academy, created to empower and educate the next generation of models. Together, we unpack the essential skills every successful model must have, with valuable insights on authenticity, collaboration, and creative evolution, lessons that resonate across all the arts. If you want to deepen your understanding of artistic expression in today's shifting creative landscape, or if you're developing your modelling career or just starting out, this episode is a rare, deep dive masterclass packed with practical tips, wisdom, and inspiration that you won't want to miss. Before we get started on today's episode, I have some exciting new updates about Art versus the Algorithm. As you know, this podcast is at the heart of everything we do. Over the next few months, we'll be expanding it with more ways to engage, featuring expert guests sharing deep insights and knowledge to help our creative community to grow. But today, I've got something that's a little different. I'm thrilled to announce our first step beyond the podcast. We're launching in-person figure photography workshops in Lisbon. This is your chance to master photographing the human figure, a skill that's at the centre of all people photography. Think of it as the photography version of life drawing, where you learn to see and capture the figure with a new perspective. With my background as a cinematographer, the workshops will take on a unique cinematic and storytelling approach. True to our mission of putting people first, these workshops are open to all skill levels, even if you've never touched a camera. And here's the best part. You don't even need your own camera to join. To get involved, apply for the waiting list at willpreisner.com/AVA workshops, which is AVA workshops. Check the episode description for all the details and the link. Plus, the first 20 people to be accepted will get a 20% discount on their very first workshop. Also, follow at ava.workshops on Instagram. Again, the information is in the description. If you share our pinned launch post on that Instagram page, either in your stories or by using the repost button, you'll enter a draw to win a free spot at our special launch workshop. If you don't have Instagram, you can still enter the draw, and there are more details on how to do this on the waiting list page. I'm so excited to build this community, and I can't wait to welcome you along on the journey with us, whether you're in Lisbon or beyond. So, without further ado, let's get on to episode 11 with Laetitia Bouffard-Roupe. So first of all, I saw you just posted on your Instagram this morning some shots of you as if you're standing on water. Where did you shoot that?
Yeah, that was shot exactly about a year ago in Turkey. It's on a salt lake. I don't remember the exact name of the city. It's our standing place with, dry salt. But if you get there and it has been raining a bit, then you get this bit of water and then you get that reflection effect. So you have to be extremely lucky, actually, to get there in the right moment, to have the right amount of water. Because sometimes it's too much of it and sometimes it's not enough and it's just dry salt. But
so it's just got to be like a few millimeters.
Yeah, so you need like just a bit to get that reflection effect, and then you get to do photos like that. And I've done it. We did it 4 hours. So from the bright blue sky like those ones, but until sunset, and then it gets like yellows, oranges, and then you get like a silhouette effect. And it was a memorable shoot, very unique. But also, I have to say, probably the most painful shoot I have ever done.
Why?
I suffered so badly, and I squeezed my teeth and just got along with it. But because I was posing bare feet, you have dry salt and it's super spiky. And as a ballet dancer, my posing is ballet and yoga mostly. So I'm always on my demi point, like on my tiptoes for posing. So I had all this like dry salt spiking inside my toes. Yeah, it was extremely painful. For the next 3 days, I could not feel my feet. I'm really happy I've done it, but no pain, no gain, right? Sometimes you have to suffer to make art come true.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the pain I'm in for like a brief second taking a photo, it makes that feel like child's play in comparison.
It was a 4-hour shoot.
Hours.
It was
4 hours.
Yes, and it was kind of like a workshop. So I had 5 photographers there with me. So I had to keep on posing all 4 hours for everybody.
And not give the impression you were in pain at all.
Well, I did tell them I was in pain. They knew about it.
Yeah, just to make sure they were on point.
Mm-hmm. Normally, you should you should wear some kind of flip-flop, like thick ones, to protect your feet when you're walking on this, because also the salt is kind of eating your skin. It's a high density of salt in that water. So it's not recommended to stay there 4 hours.
Right, okay.
All the photographers had shoes on and protective shoes, and but was the only one.
Dedication to the art, definitely.
Right.
So to officially start, I just saw that this morning. I wanted to ask you. Can you tell me who you are and describe the artwork that you do?
Who I am? Big question. I am.
I like big questions.
I started my artistic career as a professional ballet dancer. At age 9, I left to Paris Opera Ballet School, which I have finished. Then I danced around Europe as a professional ballet dancer until I got really fed up with the ballet world. Many reasons for directors and all the behind the scenes of the ballet world. And I then changed my career and I became a freelance acrobat, which is quite a big change for the body. I did ground acrobatics as a duo with my ex-boyfriend, and then I also did aerial acrobatics with silks and hoop and straps. And I've done that for 17 years, traveling the world as a freelance acrobat. I've stopped. My last show was in October 2020. And I have started photography in 2018. So for about 2 years, I overlapped the acrobatics and the show. So I had 5 shows a week, and I would, on my 2 days off, travel for photo shoots. And then in 2020, I decided to stop performance and I started full-time modeling. I use the skills I've gathered through my life. So my ballet posing, I'm also a registered yoga teacher. So I use the yoga for my posing, and I'm also a fitness instructor. So I like also the type more like fitness posing. So I feel really more complete as an artist because I get to get all my skills into the photography, adding all the creativity on top of it from the photographer's ideas, my ideas, locations, lighting. So I feel really fulfilled now that I'm able to use all the skills I've gathered through my photography.
And just to go back to the very beginning of your journey, how did you start out on the path to become a ballet dancer? And then how did you decide to transition later to becoming a model, which obviously this podcast is going to focus more on, but just kind of to give us a sense of how you had those movements?
Yeah, so the dance, well, in France, I'm French, I didn't say that. But in France, it's a quite normal thing when you're a little girl that your parents put you for ballet. They would put girls for ballet and boys for football. And then on your days off from school, you go to ballet. And that's what my parents did when I was already 3 years old. And at a certain point, my ballet teacher told my parents that I really had skills and I should look into a better school because I had potential to do that professionally. So my parents are not from the artistic world or nothing, so they had no idea about all of that. So my teacher helped them to find a better school. And I applied for Paris Opera Ballet School. And I managed to pass the audition, which is not a small thing because every year you get about 600 little girls which are auditioning, and usually around 10 to 12 are taken. So I had to move from Lyon to Paris, which is about 600 kilometers away, alone.
And was that with your parents?
No, I moved alone. Well, it was a boarding school, so in internet, like you stay there and sleep. So you stay there all week, and then on weekends you come back to your family.
Okay, wow. How did that feel moving away from your family at that age?
Well, at that age, I had a huge passion, and I was so happy that I was like, wow, I love dance, and I'm going to be dancing every day. And that was my 9 years old way of thinking. Of course, it was difficult to don't have your parents every day, but my parents were so supportive. Well, in that time also, there were no cell phones. The only way we had to keep in touch were letters. The school only had 4 phone boxes with cards at that time. And we only were allowed 5 minutes a day to call our parents. So every kid had a chance to call.
Amazing. And then kind of evolving out of that, what kind of set you on a path to wanting to do modeling?
Actually, it's not something I have ever thought about. It's something that came to me. So like I said before, I also do yoga and fitness. And my first Instagram account was a yoga and fitness based account where I just shared some healthy tips about yoga and healthy lifestyles. And one day, one photographer reached out to me on this account because he was looking for a ballet dancer with also aerial hoop skills for a photo shoot. And that's how it started. He proposed me to fly to Portugal and to do an art shoot with ballet and aerial hoop. And I loved his work so much that I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? And I was in that time, the best shape of my life. My body was super flexible, super ripped, super strong. And I thought if I had to have a souvenir of myself being in my best shape ever, it was the moment to. So I was like, yeah, let's do a photo shoot and let's see. And the only part, which was a bit strange for me, is that he requested a nude photo shoot. I first asked my boyfriend and I asked my dad how they felt about that. And they both gave me kind of the green light to do it. So it's like, okay, let's go for it. And that's how everything started. Well, his name is Andre Brito and he's quite recognized in the art nude world. He did tell me that after the first shoot, when he's going to start publishing the photos, that probably I will get requests for more photo shoots. And that's exactly what happened. So it was a big snowball effect when he started publishing. I got a lot of requests from that after that one shoot.
Okay, fantastic. So it's just kind of it happened organically?
Yes. And from that, I decided to open a dedicated Instagram account for modeling because I started publishing the photos on that yoga account and all the yogis were like, what is this? What are you doing? Why are you publishing nude photos? What is... So it didn't fit my audience. So yeah, I started the Laetitia channel model account from after that first shoot. And then so many photographers reached out. Ride the wave, like they say, take the offers and see. And it worked really well.
And obviously you mentioned that you bring your experiences in ballet and fitness and acrobatics to your modeling. What qualities did ballet teach you, kind of both professionally and personally, that you also can bring to your modeling?
I think ballet is bringing life quality like discipline, consistency, respect, all those things. You learn them the hard way through ballet. It's a life lesson. It's not even just for the modeling or for photography. It's a way of life when you are a professional ballet dancer. And there are those things you learn when you're so young. They're just after engraving your character.
And how has discipline specifically benefited being a model?
Well, the discipline, let's say, of now, like for me, I can't take apart the modeling and for me, the marketing. Just having the discipline of posting every day, the discipline of answering to everybody every day, like just being on it, being consistent at it. Like all of this is, I think, part of the success of my success as a freelance model.
You say you've obviously got to stay in contact with people every day and keep up with that every day. Does it have any kind of toll on you to have to do that constantly?
Well, yeah, I think everybody's kind of always, you can have some moment where you kind of burn out of doing something every day. But I see the reward, like I see the beautiful photos that are created and I see the beautiful connection that I have made with photographers, in-person connection. It is rewarding to see the results and the experience that are built, the location I've traveled to, all of that. It's worth the work.
Just in terms of trying to get like a sense of balance with it, do you give yourself any specific time where you're just like off and you're not doing social media and you're not, so it's just, so you know when you're on and when you're off, or you just kind of at it all the time?
I try to give myself a boundary after 10 p.m. to don't answer to anybody anymore. That's my boundary, but I'm there every day. Just I try to give myself like a time limit in the evening where I'm not available to answer messages anymore. At the beginning, I did not do that, and it was not good.
In what way was it not good?
I showed my fans and photographers that I was just available constantly, and they expected me to answer. Where I didn't put that boundary that it's 10 p.m. and it's over. You'll wait until tomorrow for me to get an answer.
Yeah, just to kind of like healthily protect yourself, I suppose, from being too absorbed by it.
Exactly.
I read as well, either on your website or in an interview, that when you were 10, your ballet teacher would tell you daily that you were overweight. What kind of an impact did this sort of thing have on you at the time? And how has that sort of thinking progressed through your life as an adult in terms of, like, obviously you use your body as your art. Is there any sort of like conscious way of looking at yourself and setting a bar, like in terms of what you expect yourself to look like? Or is it more about like health and feeling fit and feeling strong? How does this balance for you?
Yeah, when I was little at the ballet school, they would weight us weekly. And we had a target weight to be on. From 10 until like when I left school at 16, every single week you had a weight. They will also check your height, like how much you grew, because you grow quite quickly at those age between 10 and 16. So they monitor that, your height and your weight. And then they would give you a weight you had to be on. And if you were not in that range, they would change your diet at the canteen, like for lunch and dinners. So I was constantly, I was never in the target. I have black jeans and I put on, let's say, weight more easily. Even though you practice 6 hours a day, you're sweating and dancing and jumping, you burn a lot of calories. So I also built muscle quite easily because of my darker blood, and muscle is heavy, but they didn't really care about that. So yeah, I was constantly on the watch diet list. And every Monday, my teacher would tell me that I had to be on that list. And I knew I was constantly on that list. But yes, it does impact in long term on the mental health, for sure. And after that, I got out of school, I thought, all that is over now. Well, no, it wasn't. I got into a show with a show production that also waiting us every week. They waited at the beginning of the contract and they gave us a show weight, and we had to be on that show weight during the whole length of the contract. So yeah, it didn't stop until I think my last weight in a show was back in 2017. So basically almost all my life I've been weighted weekly.
Did weigh you for acrobatics too?
Yes. You have to keep a certain, they contract you for your look. So you have to keep the look. You cannot be like gaining 3-4 kilos during 6 months contract, because then one, you may not fit in your costume. And second, you will not have the aesthetics of the shows that they wanted. So basically, almost all my life, I've been weighted weekly. And now I have a weird relation to the scale. I don't weight myself at all since then. I just go with the way I feel. I feel it in my clothes if I put on some weight occasionally. That's how I go by now. I don't want to step on a scale ever again.
I can understand with what you've been through that would put you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising to me. It sounds like something that I'd never even considered that would be the case. I mean, I understand, like you're saying, with the need to maintain a certain look based off what you come in as. That I kind of understand, but some sort of arbitrary number that you need to be when obviously everyone's body's built differently. I suppose it's like it doesn't relate to your ability to do the job.
As an acrobat, if you put on 3-4 kilos, it may alter your ability to do the tricks.
I understand they wouldn't want you to within that change, but in acrobatics, were they also weighing you at the sort of point of interview and saying, no, you're too heavy to do the job? Or were they happy with trusting you and the look of you, and then they were just saying, maintain what you look like?
Well, because the weight is weekly, they see really fast if you're starting to go up. So you usually don't get to the moment when you're like, oh, you took 3 kilos, because in 1 week it's kind of hard to take 3 kilos. But if you're already starting to gain a kilo and then the next week a second one, then you're like, they give you a warning that you need to go down by week 3.
Right, okay. But in the interview, are they weighing you?
They weigh you when you are signing your contract on that day.
Okay. Sorry, it's fascinating to me. It's not something I'd ever considered. I mean, I understand in like sports like boxing, where you run the risk of killing someone if you're overweight, I suppose. I understand it to some extent, but also I suppose when you're 10 years old, it's quite an extreme thing to be doing to young girls.
Yeah, and the weight they give you is also extreme, meaning as a ballerina, here is a ratio. You should be between 18 and 20 under your weight, your height. So it's like, it's extreme weights you need to keep.
Right. And this is still something that happens within that world?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, to move on from this, I read a quote that you said, I had to let go of perfection to embrace imperfections as part of the art. It wasn't easy, but that's when I stopped just being a dancer and became an artist. What did you do to allow yourself to let go of being a perfectionist?
Yes, sometimes you have to because when you're at school, they teach you the technique, and that's where the technique has to be perfect. And then they don't really allow you, when you try to express yourself, very quickly, the perfection of the movement is going to slip away, because you can't think about 1 million things at the same time while dancing. And until the perfection is not engraved in your body, you can't really express and let go and have both. So this is a long path for an artist to be able to arrive to the moment where your technique and perfection is so engraved in your body that you can now express yourself with the technique. But sometimes you do need to let go a bit of that perfectionism to start expressing yourself. But it's way after schools, and even during your career in a theater, it doesn't happen until a few years later that you can get to that level.
And it's sort of adding flair and individuality to it.
Yes, facial expression, and maybe not doing the perfect arm, but giving it a sense and giving it a why, instead of just moving as per books says you have to. And adding your personality to movement.
Do you find that same mentality transfers into modeling?
Yes, in modeling, you have to express emotions. If not, the photos are going to be so boring. You express yourself not only with your face, your eyes, but with your body too. Like a hand, just the tension in fingers can change the whole mood of a whole photo. Small things, tension in shoulders, tension in the neck, so many little things that can adapt to show expressions.
You have to be aware of everything.
And of course, composition, lines, curves, angles. There's a lot of things involved in posing.
And just to kind of wrap up my focus on dance, you said that backstage stories was kind of key to losing the heart for being a ballet dancer. If you'd be comfortable with sharing, what sort of situations would sort of arise that made you want to pull away from being a dancer?
Sure. I was in a situation where, like I said, my ex-boyfriend was also a ballet dancer, and we were both in the ballet company, and we were hired. The director knew that we were a couple. And then suddenly, one day I got pulled into the office alone, to the director's office, and he was like, well, I like you a lot, but I don't like him so much, so I guess I'm going to have to fire him. And you're welcome to stay, and you're going to be with me now. Him being my new boyfriend.
Right, okay.
So there is a moment in dance which really disgusted me like that, which was, it's not anymore about talent when you dance, when you are actually on stage. It's more about personal relationships and who sleeps with who and who agrees to do what with who. I couldn't stand that. I lost my heart to the whole ballet company. And this is not just a one-time thing, like you hear it a lot. It happens worldwide.
Right, okay. I mean, it's a shame that it's not the merits of you being a dancer that...
The sad truth is the ones which are like in front dancing are talented, but that's not the why they are in front dancing. The one in the back are as talented. So if you see some girls moving forward really quickly up the ladder in ballet, because in ballet you have all those levels where you're corps de ballet, soloist, some demi-soloists. And when you see somebody going up really quickly, you just know why. When you get out of a national ballet school, we all have the talent and we all have the skills. But you know why when somebody's going up quickly.
It's almost like the plot of the film Black Swan, or it's like somewhat related to that. I'm sure you've seen that film.
It's still very, very soft compared to what really happens.
Right, and that was shocking for people who didn't really understand the ballet world at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad to hear that that's the case, but I'm also not surprised either. It doesn't surprise me that that's the case, and it's a shame. But moving on from dance to many things you found yourself doing, like you're saying, acrobatics, circus performing, modeling, yoga, and being a fitness instructor. I saw that you said that you had opportunities to do the things before you necessarily had the skills to do the things, and you still said yes. Can you expand on how this approach has benefited you?
Well, it kind of happened already twice in my life. The first time was the transition from ballet to acrobatics. The first time I did an audition for acrobatic duo. In that time, I had zero skills into partner acrobatics. I only had skills in ballet partnering. And a month after that audition, the woman called and was like, here's the contract. You're going to be an acrobat. I was like, okay. How long do I have until the start? 1 month. Okay. I'm going to do it. And I was lucky that when I exited the audition, actually a coach was watching the audition and told me, if she ever calls you, please call me and I will teach you. So I had kept that visit card and I called that guy, and for 1 month I trained like a mad person until the contract started. And I kind of feel the same with the modeling, because I got into modeling, I have zero experience in posing, zero experience in lighting, studio, photography, nothing, never heard anything about it. And I just said yes and went and did that first photo shoot. And after, when people reached out more to me about doing photo shoots, I was like, yes. And I figured it out on the go.
And you'd recommend this approach to other people who are wanting to try new things? Obviously, within reason, there's certain things that are maybe...
I mean, the worst case, you may fail, but it makes life interesting. It gives you a challenge, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, personally, the times I feel like I've made big jumps is when that's happened. Reading that was your approach reminded me of my kind of more daring, risk-taking approach when I was younger. And maybe the older I've got, the less I've been willing to do those things. Like when I was younger, obviously it's not to the same scale, but I got offered a job that was sort of like visual effects. And it was in 2 weeks. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was like money and a job whilst I was at university studying film. Back then, it's like there wasn't loads on the internet about this. I just bought a book and like worked my way through the entire book in 2 weeks, like day and night, to the point I just walked in, did the job, walked out. That's all I could do was specifically what they wanted me to do. And I did it and I blagged it and got paid. And I was like, okay. And I did the same thing in my 20s with a feature film. I was not ready to shoot a full film, but I just got the opportunity and I was like, well, yeah. And I did it. And now I think, God, I don't think I could shoot a full film now, but I managed to do it 10 years ago. So just because I was put in this position, I think there's a lot to be said about throwing yourself in the deep end and trusting yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, and that show, they put me twice in that situation. So I said first yes to the ground acrobatics, and then I figured it out and did it. And then for the second contract they wanted to give me, they're like, well, can you do aerial acrobatics, like hoop? I was like, yeah. And I just bought a hoop and I figured it out like day and night. and the second contract I did hoop. And then the third contract, they're like, could you do silks? Yeah. And I did the same. I just stayed in the studio and figured it out.
Amazing. I mean, is it one that, for me, if I get anything like that, it's the sort of thing I'd be pacing around my flat for about 5-10 minutes thinking like, can I say yes? Have I got the balls to say yes to this? Even though I know deep in my head that it's going to take a lot of learning and a lot of trust in myself. Are you like instantly yes? Do you second guess it?
Actually, the first time I said yes to the ground acrobatics, which I had never done in my life, it was on a phone call. I had no time to think it through. I got the offer. They explained the dates, the money, the time, the length of contract, and I just said yes. No blinking. And it was just like and then in that time, it was an acrobatic duo. So it was with my boyfriend. And when I hung up the phone, my boyfriend was like, what did you say yes to? Because I took a decision for both of us.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's just cold. I like it. It's assassin behavior. I just like, it's like, no bullshit. I'm doing this. Next level confidence. I respect that a lot.
No return.
Yeah. I love it. How did he react to that?
He was quite shocked, but he was on board. And then we both went and learned what we had to learn. It changed my life for.
I suppose if you'd taken the route of like fear or not backing yourself, then you might not have progressed into where you are today.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'm so happy I took that decision.
And also, when you said about, was it with the hoop stage of that, where you knew someone that said to get in touch with them?
No, this was for the acrobatics, for the first contract. Yeah.
That's like synchronicity. The coincidence of those two things. It's like sometimes I find in life these things come together at the right moment.
It's a sign. Like somebody's like willing to teach me something I don't know and which I'm getting a contract for. It's like, there's too many signs.
Yeah, for you to ignore it.
Yeah.
It feels like you're going against what you should be going for. So to move on now to focus more on the modeling that you do. What is it about modeling that you love?
One, I love the connection with the photographers, like meeting new people, the creativity that's involved in like the pre-shoot communication, preparing the ideas, the locations, or the whole process of putting the concept together for the shoot. Actually, after meeting the people, and I became really friends with many of my photographers. So the human part is pretty great. And of course, the traveling, shooting in always the best spots, because in each town, the photographers, they are knowing where to bring me to have the best possible photos. And overall, the creativity is just like the number one, I think. And the side effect of it, of when I publish, to be able to inspire others, is a very important part for me too.
And that's to inspire other models.
Other models, other giving ideas to photographers for another shoots, Also, I have a lot of artists like that are drawing my photos or painting my photos. So in any way, I think this is the bigger purpose behind what I do than just taking a photo.
Than just pleasing you.
Yeah, and just pleasing myself and getting paid for it. I think this is a bit shallow way of approach. But yeah, I'm getting daily messages of people telling me how I inspire them. So this is the rewarding part.
So the focus being more on doing it for others than just for yourself. That's
And sharing the art, publishing to inspire others. I have many people that, let's say, stopped photography and they restarted because they saw my photos, or some people that stopped ballet and my photos re-inspired them to start again, or many models that started modeling because they followed me. Just all different kind of inspiration.
This is like an extension of things I've read previously about happiness and how like true happiness is found in doing things for other people rather than just yourself. And also if you can reframe what you do and make it less about you and make it more about helping others or inspiring others or whatever it might be for others, then it's going to be more fulfilling for you overall.
It is. It's very fulfilling when I receive messages that I got to inspire. I'm like, I managed, my day is done. Like I inspired somebody. Great. Like,
I mean, I think for me, that works on both a large scale level and on like a macro level. If I spend time with a friend and I can do something nice for them, that makes me feel a lot better about the interaction than if I can get my friend a coffee or something. That feels better than just me spending my money on me. I learned this like a few years ago. And I was like, even just a small thing, it's like the reverse mentality of getting gifts as a child for Christmas or your birthday or some other occasion. That's what you care about. But as you become an adult, you care more about the giving of it, and you can extend that to different parts of your life, and it makes you feel a lot happier, I find.
That's right. I agree.
So what does movement and moving your body mean to you, and how's that changed since becoming a model?
Oh, it's a very different way of moving for photos and moving on stage. In photography, you have to hold poses and freeze them most of the time. Okay, sometimes you can flow and photographer is catching the moment. It's quite rare. I find that mostly in photography, you need to freeze poses especially dance poses, because if you don't freeze them, it's hard to catch them in movement in the right moment. So yeah, a huge difference when it comes to dance on stage and actually posing for photography.
Okay. And I read a quote that you believe there's more vulnerability in photography than dance. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I mostly shoot nude. So there's a huge trust exchange, where in dance, not really. You're on the stage and you have the audience. And as an artist on stage, you give, but there is no really vulnerability to it. But in photography, there is a huge trust and vulnerability case necessary, I think, as a model to show expressions and amazing photos. If you keep that part, it's going to be seen on photos and you're not going to look comfortable. You're going to look stiff and stuck if you don't manage to unlock that part.
I suppose the word vulnerability on this topic is mentioned a lot, and I use it quite freely, but I've never really looked into what exactly that means. I know it's sort of trusting the photographer that you're working with and allowing yourself to just be free and loose and expressive in front of them. Mm-hmm. And it's based on the relationship that you have with that person, that you've developed a trust, you like them and that you get on well and that you believe that what they're doing is good and it's reciprocated. It's in both directions.
Yes, but you don't have to like each other. Sometimes I don't really know the person. I don't know if I like him, maybe, I don't know, his character or anything. I think for me, it's more about being on the same page on the creative level. What are we aiming to create? And if I see that we are on the same level, on the same page, then I can be vulnerable in my posing and in my expression. We have to align on the artistic and creative part of the photography.
And that's respect as well, I suppose.
Yes. the process of how we are going to create and how it's going to be delivered and published and what is going to happen. And because if all of that is not agreed prior, you cannot be vulnerable at the shoot. If you feel like maybe he's going to be publishing something I'm not comfortable with without my approval, let's say.
And so it's really important to be upfront before you even arrive on the shoot.
Yes. That's the most important part, because also this is where you find if you are on the same page or not, if you're aiming at creating the same goal.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've found with some less experienced models that I've shot with, on a few occasions, I've had those discussions prior to the shoot about what they're comfortable with and what we're going to do. And then when it comes to the shoot, they've changed their mind on what that is, but they've not communicated that to me before we got to the shoot. And I only find out when we're on the shoot. And it's frustrating because I think sometimes it's like, you obviously have to change what you're doing. It's not very professional behavior, but I think sometimes it's just so that if they like how you shoot, just so they get to shoot with you by saying, yes, I like what your concept is. Yes, I'm happy to do this, when actually they're not. And I think that communication and being like really open about that, like you're saying, it's important in both directions. And it means that you both turn up to a shoot and respect each other and can do great work.
Right. But for me, it's extremely important. The pre-shoot communication is super important.
I'm doing a lot of quote reading here, but there's some really interesting things that you've said that I want to dig into. I also read that you reclaimed femininity through photography and embraced the complexity of femininity through photography. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, actually, photography really helped me to discover my more sensual and feminine side. I have to say, like in the ballet and acrobatic world, it's not really something you touch on. And as I discovered different gender of photography, like more like the boudoir style or this type, I really touched on with my feminine side and got more sensual, more open to show it and to be more sexy. It's something that when I started photography, I was more straight on art. I see it a bit like photography therapy, you know what I mean? Like it helped me to discover that side of me, which I was not so in touch with.
What do you mean by femininity? What is that to you?
Like sensuality, how the body moves, let's say, because I started ballet at age 3, so my ballet movement is in my body. Like it's so hard for me to not move in a ballet way and find movement that is more sensual and not artistic was something new for me to embrace. And just seeing the photos, like seeing myself in a different way through the lens of the photographers, like in a more sensual and sexy way. Yeah, I like that part. I was like, wow, okay, I can be that too. I can be the ballerina, but I can be more feminine, Laetitia, sexy look. And it's interesting.
Great. Can you give me an overview of what a typical day living the life you do as a model would be like?
Well, there's 2 different days, like the days when I'm like not traveling and then the days when I travel and shoot. Let's say a shooting day would be usually an early wake up call, probably around 6 o'clock, would be makeup, hair, breakfast, get picked up by the photographer at my hotel or go by myself to the location. And then usually would be 2 to 3 shoot a day, like a full day booking. So let's say 2 hours or 3 hour shoot, take another transport to the next shoot 2, 3 hours, move on to the next shoot 2, 3 hours, and then finish my day with a nice and beautiful warm meal. I was starving by the end of a day like that. And sleep, because then the next day is the same. But I forgot, sorry, in the morning before my makeup and hair, I would do a small 10-15 minute like workout in my hotel room, do my abs, stretching to stay in shape. That will be my typical day.
And is there any other sort of prep that you have to do as a model?
Like I said, I trained my body all my life. So Stretching and conditioning is just part of my everyday, no matter if I'm traveling or if I'm home. When I'm home, I will do a longer workout, like an hour. And that's my way of keeping my body for the photos and for myself too, not only for photos, for my health and for the look. But of course, diet is really important to be watching. At the end of the day, photographers are booking models also for their look. Yeah, if your portfolio, you're nice, slim and toned, and suddenly you show up at the shoot with 5 kilo more, maybe not so happy. It's just important to don't lie to photographers and update your portfolio. After, it depends, whatever look you want to keep. If you still have a six-pack, great. If you don't have that six-pack, don't post the six-pack photos. If you're not aiming at keeping the six-pack, don't show them. Don't show the old photos. Just be honest with photographers with the way you look.
Enjoying the show? Visit our website at artvsalgorithm.com to explore episode blogs, transcripts, and so much more. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Will Preisner. And while you're listening, let us know what you think of this episode by leaving a review on your favourite podcast app.
What inspires your pose ideas?
Well, like I said, I base myself on ballet and yoga, mostly for my posing, because that's my background. Then I shoot outdoors, let's say with rocks or with like in the nature like this. I love to like incorporate myself into the environment, like find probably poses that I will never do, but just incorporate myself with the shape of nature. I like that, actually. It's really challenging sometimes to just embrace the shape of a rock or of a tree, things like that. And also sometimes it's a challenge when you get like a fun furniture shape in a studio and you get to like play around to find poses to make it interesting.
So in your modeling with your poses, it's you need to come in ready to be adaptable and creative as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the fun part. I like days when I surprise myself. Actually, I'm like, wow, I've never done that pose before. So those kind of days are fun.
How much of your poses come from suggestions from the photographer and how much comes from suggestions from you, or does it vary?
It varies of the experience of the photographer, I would say. Mostly photographers are relying on me to pose because, well, they pay me for it, so I should know what I'm doing, which is completely normal. But occasionally some photographers, they have more experience. They help with adjusting, or they see something and they propose to move an arm or like in a different way. And I like when that happens because it's more collaborative. And I always say the photographer is the mirror, because when you're a model, you don't really see yourself. So if there is no back and forth, like we don't know which angle you're using, which lens you're using, what do you see, which crop you're doing. So any feedback is always great to have as a model. Like, don't stay silent. Just talk to your models.
Yeah, I probably talk too much to the models that I shoot with. But if I like something, I'm very vocal about it. If something's like good and I like really like what I'm seeing, then I'm vocal about it. Also, for me, it's like whilst I'm framing and thinking about composition and lighting and the pose, it's like also trying to be aware of, oh, there's like a spot of makeup like there. Sometimes I've missed that and the model's been pissed at me because I'm like, fuck, I was too busy on everything else to not see that. And those, I mean, it happened once, I don't know, a year or so ago, and it really like locked me into like really trying to pay attention to that too. I suppose it's helpful when you got like makeup artists and things like that, but these things can change in the middle of a shoot, I suppose, and you got to try and be aware of it.
Yes. And also with wardrobe, sometimes you don't see like your dress is flipped or your hair is with the wind or like things like this. Yeah.
So it's a look at what you're doing, and to make myself more conscious of all these things, slowing down the speed in which I shoot helps a lot, because I'm not the sort of photographer that fires 1,000 shots. And because of that, it helps me to be more aware of what's going on, I suppose, because I'm looking at it before I'm taking the shot. Your back bend poses are very impressive. And I read a quote from you that said, like, my body can do pretty much anything. Is there anything that you discovered your body can't do, though? And how do you learn where your limits are when doing extreme things, like not extreme things, but impressive things like backbends?
Yeah, like, well, your body gives you your limit. It's like you go and then there's a moment where your body's like, stop. So that's where your limit is, basically. In flexibility training, that's the point where you should, let's say, you should stay in the pose in that moment which fills the block, and then you should breathe in that pose and then try to go with the exhale, like go deeper and go deeper and go deeper. And then slowly your body will allow you to go deeper when you get to that blockage moment, and then you stay in the pose and breathe and breathe and breathe. That's how you get deeper in poses. Of course, with age, the body is like not getting more flexible and not getting more giving. So you have to be gentle. You have one body. And I learned that lesson the hard way 2 years ago. And I had to go through a full hip replacement. So yes, now I treat my body gently. I listen to it very carefully. What it allows me to do, I do. And when it can't, it just can't. And that's it.
I see. You made me think about stretching when you were talking about the poses. And does that also apply to getting deeper in a stretch? If you're just stretching after running or stretching after some exercise, is that holding it and breathing it? Mm-hmm. Does that also apply to progressing deeper into any kind of a stretch?
Yeah. When you find your like pain moment or your block moment, your limit, and you stay there and breathe. And if you do that every day, eventually you will go deeper in your stretch. Flexibility and stretching, you do micro breaks in your muscle tissues. So as you break them, then they heal. But if you break them a little bit every day, then they stretch, and then you have more range. And that's how it works, basically.
Right, okay. And as a child, it's easier to kind of create that.
Yes, because it's about the collagen in your muscles. Because after 20 years old, you don't build collagen anymore. So there is no more flexibility unless you keep stretching. And of course, you need proper nutrition, you need proper hydration. It's super important for flexibility. And you need to nourish your muscles and with collagen and glucosamine and proteins, and you need the right diet that goes with it too.
Okay, it's very complex.
Yes, it is.
So often models have to hold their poses for quite a while the photographer prepares and shoots. How do you manage to hold the complex poses that you do for a long period of time?
Well, it depends on the pose. Some poses I can hold for a long time, but some not. And then when that is that case, then I actually warn the photographers and tell them, like, I won't only be able to stay 5 seconds in that one, or this isn't. Sometimes some poses, extreme poses, actually, they come in movement, not in static. So I would count 1, 2, 3, and then click on 3. So that's how a lot of my posing is made. Some is through movement, some is static, but yeah, and when it's difficult to hold, I just warn the people about it.
So if you're saying it's happening through movement, so you'll know that, for example, on 3, you'll be in the position. So you're aware of how long it'll take for you to get into it.
Yeah. I know my peak moment will be at 3. So I'll go into the pose to be there for the click at 3.
Okay, that's great. I mean, it's such awareness of your body. When you're going to be, how long things are going to take. It's impressive.
Mm.
How important is the awareness you have of structure and form to being a model?
Super important. Being aware of your faces, your angles with your shoulders, your fingers, your elbows, your toes, your fingers. I think it's the number one quality for a model, to be aware of her body. And being aware of where the photographer is and understanding your angles to the photographer, adapting if he's moving to be at the right angles for the poses.
Is there anything you can do to increase your awareness of your own body?
Yes, you can meditate and meditate with flexibility. So you are aware of your body while you're stretching and you're with yourself. Yeah, meditation, I think, is the best way to achieve that, because you really have to be within to have that awareness.
And on your website, you mentioned the difference between a good and a bad pose. How do you define the difference between the two?
Well, this is more applying to dance posing. In ballet, everything is either right or wrong. There is no gray area. So there is a good pose and there is a bad pose. That's it. But it does not apply for, let's say, fashion posing or boudoir posing or all the others. I will not say that it applies generally for modeling. It applies to dance modeling and yoga, because those are really specific posing type, which do have a wrong and a right.
Okay, so the others give you more room to be creative. And I suppose, like, what can be a good pose at one angle in one kind of lighting on one lens cannot be a good pose if you change any of those.
That's why when I do workshops and there are multiple photographers and I'm posing ballet, I always say, like, it must be one by one. I don't allow for 5 photographers to shoot me in the same time, because only one photographer is going to get the right photo. All the others will be at a wrong angle, a wrong position.
And are you advising them on what might be the best angle to take it from?
Yes.
And how have you developed that awareness?
I just know what I want to show. So there is one position for it.
And is that through, like, looking in the mirror while you're posing, or you just develop this awareness as a dancer?
Yes.
Because you've been doing it for so long. It's impressive that you have that awareness. When you're doing duo shoots with other models, are there any considerations or ways that you have to approach this for it to be successful? You're obviously working with someone that you don't know.
I'm really picky with duo shoots. First of all, I will not really pose with someone I don't know. If I pose with another model, it means I've been already following her for some time. We've been chatting a bit and we get along. And we have the same kind of values, like I speak like a pre-shoot communication, like we are aiming to kind of doing the same type of photos. One important thing, I think, when we do duo posing is the height. Both bodies, they need to be kind of harmonious together. And when it comes to me, but it's kind of specific to me, I like to have the second models to have some kind of flexibility and skills like I kind of do, because it helps to create more unique poses together. That's not a must, but it's good. It makes it more challenging and interesting.
And how do you handle, I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How do you handle the element of, like, being physical and often nude with someone that you've just spoken to over social media, or you don't know that well?
Well, most of the models with who I have posed are very comfortable with being nude, because they are experienced models that are doing that all the time. So there is no barrier of being nude with them, because it's nothing really strange or special for us. There's no awkwardness to it.
I sort of thought, like, you being a dancer and spending your life touching and being around other people, and I feel like that would have likely been good training for.
But in dance, you don't touch people nude. You are dressed when you're dancing with each other, you're interacting, you're always dressed. So it is different to be posing nude with somebody.
And is it just about open communication when you are posing nude to someone, just in terms of, like, where you touch and how you?
Yeah, you have to kind of say, is it okay can I touch you here? Can I grab that? You kind of ask permission. And then usually after a couple of minutes, you don't anymore, and you just kind of go with the flow. But you're just being respectful at the beginning to ask for permissions.
Yeah, because you understand by that point what each other is comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
As a dancer and an acrobat, you're used to your body kind of being presented as an art form and treating it as such. Mm-hmm. How did that sort of mindset help you when you started out posing nude as a model?
Yeah, it helps a lot. I felt like I was at the beginning more like a sculpture for photos. A lot of photographers, they gave me like those white blocks like in studios to pose on. I felt like I was like a sculptor.
I realize that often photographers are approaching dancers for that reason, because of the sort of shared mentality, featuring the body as art in different mediums, but that's kind of where we meet in the middle with our mentality and the respect for that.
Yeah, coming
So,
back on being on the same page, being, creating with the same intention.
were there any concerns or barriers initially to you shooting art nude work?
Well, I have my new limits, but besides that, no.
So the first time you ever shot nude, you just were quite comfortable with the idea and...
Yeah, I was 100% trusting the photographers just from seeing his work. I could see where his nudity levels were at also. I mean, what he was shooting, he was more aiming at selling art nudes prints in galleries and things. So there was no confusion with what the photos were for or what the limits were.
And what did your friends and family think of the first time you decided to do that?
Well, like I said, the first thing I asked was my father if he was fine. And he was. My mom still hates it. She wants me every day to stop. She feels that it's not safe to have nude photos of me on the internet. She feels that I can have predators which are going to come to me and are going to attack me in the street and whatever. That's the only person in my friends and family that doesn't like it.
I've had similar responses from people in my family about my photography, which at first bothered me, but then I also developed a similar approach to you, where I was like, well, I'm either going to be bothered about this forever or just have to develop a not really care mentality. And that just expands outward from that point to anyone, like someone you just meet, for example, that has some sort of view. I used to care about these things, like, because I used to care that people liked me and instantly got on with me, but now I care less and less and less what anyone thinks.
Exactly.
Has your career been an art nude model and the lifestyle that comes with that, like the travel, has it had any impact on your romantic life?
Yes and no. When I first started, like I said, I did ask my boyfriend I had at the time if he was fine with it. And he was. And he loved my work, very supportive of my work. He didn't mind about what I was doing. But during our relationship, we did split. And I am not sure still yet if some part of that separation, if maybe my modeling was part of it, or more seeing me being successfully making my own money while traveling and being my best self. Maybe he didn't accept all the part of the success. So I did have a breakup while I was modeling. Now I have another boyfriend. And he is very, very, very supportive of my modeling. And it was a number one condition, actually, when I met him. The first question I asked him was, are you ready to share me with the world? Because being an art model is one thing. Being nude with other men is one thing. Having a larger audience on social media is also something, because I have hundreds of men writing to me every day. Fans which don't want anything bad from me. They're just very supportive and being inspired with what I do. But they write. So this was the number one condition I had with my current relationship, was that he is ready to share me with the world, because it is part of my life. The fans, the photographers. I have a lot of other men which are texting me daily.
It takes someone that's really comfortable in themselves, I suppose, to be able to accept that and see it for what it is.
Yes, I told him I will not change. I'm not going to change my job. So if you want the relationship to go, you have to accept what I'm doing. I knew from the other relationship, I was like, if you can't accept that part, then let's don't even start anything.
This conversation is very relatable. I have a lot of stop-start in my dating life because of this, even though I'm very upfront about it, like super upfront. I learned from a previous relationship to be upfront about it, but you find out at different stages whether someone's comfortable or not. They can be instantly uncomfortable, which is my favorite, because then you just turn and walk away and everyone's like, bye. But you can find out like a few weeks in or a few months in that someone's become uncomfortable with a specific aspect of what I do. And I suppose it does lead to a lot of frustration and skepticism on my part about relationships whilst doing the photography work that I do. And so it's always fascinating to hear how other people approach this.
Yeah, so far I'm like now 3.5 years, and I guess it's gonna go through because he's been through all the aspects of it. Let's see.
Yeah, you've covered the whole...
Yeah, the spectrum has been like on all angles.
And I saw that you traveled to 87 countries and seem to be constantly traveling. Do you like this lifestyle? What are the pros and cons of constantly being on the road like that?
Well, the pros are, discovering new countries, new culture, new food. It's amazing growth for personal growth to just be traveling and discovering the world. And the cons is not being home enough. Just even for small things, like daily things, like going to the doctor or going to the post office or picking up things which are delivered and you're not home, and just daily life. It's a bit complicated to manage sometimes with the travels. You have to really plan, like some things that you need to be physically home to manage, and sometimes you're not home, and it can be challenging to handle those parts. Yeah, the cons also, you're not so much with your family or with your friends as much as you wish. But now I try to balance the amount of day I travel and the amount of day I'm home. I try to split that now a bit more equally to have a better balance.
And you mentioned before as well, when you were talking about people messaging you constantly, I read in an interview that you did where you're saying that people with like specific like fetishes, for example, will reach out to you and make requests.
Yeah.
What are some of the more bizarre requests, not necessarily just fetishes, but what are the more bizarre requests that you get from being an art model?
Because of being a dancer, I get a lot of feet fetish people.
Right.
Obviously, I have a lot of control over my toes. I can pretty much do anything with my toes, and each toe split it. And so for them, it's very interesting and intriguing. People have very weird requests sometimes. Very weird. Most of them I refuse.
It's something that I really tried to get my head around. Like I've stopped and thought, and I just cannot understand. I cannot relate one bit to it. And I've paused and thought, could I ever see myself having that kind of interest, that kind of fetish? I just can't relate. I can't even fathom it, which it fascinates me really. And also that someone would have the confidence to reach out to you as like a professional dancer and request consent of your feet.
They do. Because they see, let's say in photos, like they see me like being very flexible with my feet, bending them, and nothing. They can try to like imagine that I can do stuff.
Yeah, you just have to root things out quickly, I imagine.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of funny or bizarre or entertaining stories from a photo shoot or photo shoots that you'd be willing to share with me?
I have one photo shoot, which I think was my most, let's say, challenging in terms of the amount of preparation that's been involved and how much the photographer was like. He prepared it like for 7 days. He set it up outside in the mountain by a waterfall. We had to walk 2 hours to like a spot, and he had installed a rigging system for hanging silks in front of the waterfall and a rigging system for his lights, and he did a rigging system for his tripod. Crazy amount of preparation. He went up and down the mountains for 7 days to bring all the equipment and get everything ready for me when I arrived. And then, of course, I had to walk there. I had to pose and climb silks like 6-7 meters up in front of a running waterfall in the middle of the Swiss Alps. And he had a pro photo flash rigging, all rigged by trees and anchored in stones. Crazy amount of gear and preparation for that shoot. All that, I think it was a full day shoot, and he edited 2 photos. And then once the shoot was done, it stayed 3 days to unrig everything. And I can't imagine like the amount of, this is like the most crazy involvement like a photographer had in a shoot, I think. I know it was not too funny or entertaining, but I allowed like the devotion of the preparation for that for that photo shoot was just on another level.
Were you happy with the photos?
Oh yeah, but people think that it's photoshopped. People think I was never there actually doing that pose in front of the waterfall on the sun. They think, this is studio, and then he put you in the background.
That's frustrating. Like, obviously, you're posing nude in nature and outdoors often. Have you ever been caught by random passers-by?
Yeah. It happens. It happens. I think the one where I was the most scared was in Miami on a beach in a sunrise shoot, because they had the beach police patrol going, and it could end bad because it's not legal to be nude in Florida.
Right, okay. I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Every state and every country had different nudity rules. At the end of the day, the model is getting into trouble, not the photographer. So
you researched this before agreeing to this?
Now I do, because I've been in situations where I was not aware that even it was illegal. Now when I have to shoot outdoors somewhere, I do check the regulations, because I don't want to finish in jail.
No, that's fair enough. And is there anything that's come as a surprise to you during photo shoots? Anything being a model for photography that you weren't expecting?
Not really, because I prepare my shoot really well. Like I said, like my pre-shoot communication is quite extensive. So usually there's no surprise at the shoot. I had a couple of times where I've been requested things that were not talked through. For example, a shibari shoot suggestion at the end of a shoot, which was completely not talked about. But usually I don't get too many of those kind of surprise, because I'm pretty clear with what's going to be and what's not going to be.
Can you explain to me what Art Model Academy is and what you do over there?
Yeah, actually, Art Model Academy started quite organically too, as my other businesses, because, like I said, I did manage to inspire other models to start modeling. And through their path with starting, they did, of course, encounter issues or they had questions. And they do turn to me and ask me questions about how did I manage to communicate, or how do I manage to do trips, how do I manage to get paid shoots, how all of those questions. So I thought that it was maybe the time to start mentoring about the lifestyle and the how to make this profession successful. And I decided to build this Art Model Academy. So now I'm helping aspiring, but also models which are already into the business to just like make their business better with marketing, social media marketing mostly, but also email marketing, how to communicate with photographers, how to get more shoots, how to monetize their social media presence. I'm now not transitioning, but I'm doing both. I'm modeling myself, but I also help other models with their own businesses. I've done in-person posing classes too. I've done 2 in-person, but most of it is online via Zoom calls. And of course, I send always PDFs or additional like written content so they can move forward point by point with steps to reach their goals. So yeah, this is another like really inspiring moment where now I can share my knowledge and help others to have a successful modeling career.
I saw that you grew your Instagram to 50,000 in 14 months. Can you give me an overview of what it was that you did to be able to do that?
Yeah, so when I started Instagram, I grew really quickly at the beginning. Now I'm at 103,000. I'm kind of stuck there now, but it's fine. No issues with that. I posted every day. This is the consistency coming back to ballet. And at the beginning, I also tried to reach out to photographers that had really big accounts and try to shoot with them and convince them to shoot together. And it worked. So right at the beginning of my photography, like in my first 6 months, I've shot like with celebrity photographers also, like Antoine Verglas has 1 million followers, or in that time, Thomas Holm had like a 200,000 follower account. With Kai York had like 200 or so. So that really helped me at the beginning because, well, we didn't have the collaboration feature at that time, but they did tag me on their posts and I did the same. And I got like so much followers at the start. And also a lot of pages, like, there are those repost pages like black and white pages or let's say ballet pages that just repost content. Those pages, they really reposted a lot of my photos. So yeah, I got a lot of reach with those pages, and that's really helped me to grow quickly.
Do you have any tips for models starting out, particularly to those who want to either move into or try art nude modeling for the first time?
I would say the most important decision are your photographers. Be careful. Be very, very careful with who you shoot at the beginning, because this is going to be your network after. That's from where you're going to expand. So it is like a snowball effect. Like if you shoot with one photographer, he's posting you, then you get another reach and another reach. So if your first few photographers are not in the really aligning with the photography you want to do, you're going to reach wrong people from the beginning. And you're going to have the wrong snowball effect. And you're never going to get the shoots, the styles you want. If you go on the wrong path, it's going to be so hard to correct.
So it's worth gaining an understanding of what you actually like before beginning.
Yeah, having like an idea of, well, I had no idea at the beginning. I just started with art nude, and this was my thing. After I expanded to like I said, boudoir or fashion or things, portraits. But at the beginning, my one niche was art nude, and everybody knew me just for art nude. I just expanded in that niche. And then after the photographers, while looking at my portfolios, were like, oh, I see you don't have that many portraits in your portfolio. Would you like to do portraits? Or you are beautiful in your jeans today. Can I shoot you in your jeans? Like, I like you like this. So things came up organically and naturally with expansion of the portfolio. But I think it's important at the beginning to have a closer niche of what you want people to know you for. And then you would attract the people that are interested in that gender.
One thing that I was like really interested in when I was doing the research, because of my bias towards cinematography and lighting, you mentioned that it's really important for models to have an awareness of like light and shadow. Why is that awareness important?
Because to be honest, in a studio, let's say the photographer will place the light. If you don't understand, you don't have an understanding of what that light is doing on your body, you're not going to pose yourself right down to the right angle for that light. Then the photographer is never going to achieve what he wants. You need to have an understanding of what are the light doing to your skin, the size of the light, the intensity of the light. Does it have a grid, or is it just a vertical light? Is it an octal? Like all this understanding what makes you more special as an experienced model, like having those skills about lighting, will make a huge difference in a studio shoot when a photographer is hiring you, because you immediately know, oh, he put that light. It means I need to be that angle, or my face should be to the light or against the light maybe. Learning all of that, it just puts you on another level, and photographers will understand why they're paying your fee.
And one thing I wanted to ask you that's not related to the artistry, but more to sort of safety. There are obviously bad actors out there, like photographers who models shouldn't work with, who are not necessarily interested in the artistry of what they're doing. They're masquerading as something that they're not. How can models protect themselves from people like this? Are there any signs or things that you can do?
Yeah, this is actually part of the pre-shoot communication. You really feel it when there is a creepy guy, which is, we call it guy with camera in the jargon of models. You feel it because when you start asking deeper questions about, so what would you like to shoot? Where are we going to shoot? What are the photos for? Why? Those kind of guys have no answers because they don't have a deeper why anyway. So you feel it immediately during the chat. They dig their own hole while chatting.
So it's worth asking a lot of questions then.
Yes, that's my way. And through my 7 years experience, I had no bad shoot. I never had to leave a shoot, or I never had one bad experience. So I can say that my technique, my pre-shoot communication technique is working. Ask a lot of questions.
And looking at your work, it seems you don't do full frontal nudity and you carefully pose to kind of avoid things being seen. How do you view nudity in photography, and where do you draw the line between what is tasteful and what is not?
Yeah, I have my own limit. My limit is artistic nude with boobs. I respect other people's limit. I don't mind full nude photography. I think a lot has to do with two things, lighting and posing, to stay on the artistic side. That line between artistic and, let's say, erotic is very, very, very fine and can be crossed very easily if people are not on the same page. That's why pre-shoot communication is important if you want to stay on that artistic side. Because shooting from the right angle or shooting with the wrong light can change a photo drastically, become erotic without wanting it to be erotic.
Yeah. So you've got to have that awareness of how photographs can veer into that erotic section.
Right.
On this same topic, when it comes to nudity, how have you experienced censorship of your work? Have you experienced any?
I hate censorship.
You're on the right podcast.
I'm sure if you've scrolled through my social media, you will not find one censored photo of me. Not by me and not by any of the photographers that I have shot with. And this is a condition I have in my agreement when I shoot. If boobs are on a photo, then boobs are on the photo. They are not meant to have crosses and hearts and blurred or remove nipples, please. Don't remove nipples from women. We are not Barbies. There's going to be a problem soon with the new generation. Let's say like now a 10 years old and 11 years old scrolling on Instagram and see a woman without nipples. Maybe it's just normal for him. Do you think about the consequences of it? How many times he sees a woman without nipples? It's awful. The human body is not like that. Then he's going to get his first girlfriend and he's going to see nipples. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the thing that's worried me a lot, and I don't want to keep banging the same drum all the time about this, but I suppose it's like nipples in what context? Because it's he will see nipples, if we're saying he, a young man, in porn. He'll see nipples in porn. And that's like in a sexual context. Yeah, but then if he's unable to see nipples in other contexts, then he's probably only going to see them as a sexual thing.
Exactly. So in my agreement with my photographers, they are not allowed to censor my photos. If boobs are on it, they are meant to be shown in places where it's allowed, like Patreon, like OnlyFans, like artistic prints, like art magazines, like whatever, places where they are not requiring censorship to be posted like as they are. Because a photo censored, especially an art photo, is not art anymore. You basically scratched the art out by adding that censorship. It's like scratching Mona Lisa, like, why? Why censorship? Why?
Would you be happier if the platforms that require censorship in order to post that work, would you be happier if they just allowed it?
No, because I don't think that full nudity is meant to be on social media.
Why is that?
Because like there will be random, let's say 10, 15 years old scrolling, and they are going to being exposed to it without control, like maybe not appropriate for kids to encounter this type of content.
So it's kind of more of like a sort of protecting children sort of approach.
Yes, because even though they have parental control or they try to do restrictions on the platform that is minus 16 or minus 12, kids still see it. Kids still have access, and kids have accounts. Sometimes I have teenagers writing to me, hey, I'm under 16, can I watch your photos? So I don't think full nudity belongs on social medias.
Because I suppose with social media, it's how people like yourself have managed to kind of like build an audience and grow. It's one of the few places in, I suppose, the modern world where you're able to do that as being an artist. How do you feel that by that being the case, it might kind of restrict artists that do have nudity in their work from being able to kind of prosper and grow and be as successful as other artists because they're sort of like limited?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It's not fair. In a way, if you're really only doing full nude photography or full nude art, sometimes they even removing paintings and sculptures and things like this. This is weird, but yeah, it does put a restriction. My account 5-6 years ago was only art nude on my Instagram. I didn't have one photo dressed, but I had to shift my content just to be able to publish and to have some reach. It's sad to say, but I had my account twice closed, so I learned my lesson, and now I don't post anymore nudes on social media. I try to with backup accounts, not the nudes.
So it sort of like shapes the decision of the style of work that you wanted to do.
No, I still shoot art nude. It's not changing what I create, but I think now it's shifting what actually photographers are booking models for. 5-6 years ago, they would shoot only art nude, and now you hear, oh, okay, let's do art nude, but let's do like 10-15 minutes, like, so we have something for Instagram. So I'm getting now a lot of this. Every shoot almost now, there is a section which is like, oh, let's do some dress, like lingerie or swimwear or something where it's going to be more safe to publish.
It's essentially like the marketing for the other stuff.
Not just the marketing, it's also the photos. Like maybe it's also nice to have dressed photos, like it doesn't change the art of photography and of lighting and of posing, being nude or being dressed. But definitely the requests are changing from the photographers because they want to be able to publish.
Finally, I want to discuss your new photo book, Unseen. You've published 5 fine art photo books in the past, and this is your latest book. Or is this the 5th one?
That's the 5th, yeah.
Can you give me an overview of Unseen?
Yeah, so Unseen, speaking about censorship, is a completely uncensored book. So it's all the photos that have been unseen. A selection of my favorite unseen photos. So they've never been published on social media. And some have never even been published on my Patreon or OnlyFans. They are really exclusive to the book. It is representing 56 international photographers that I have worked with. It's a mix of color and black and white. And it has all genders. So it goes from outdoors to locations to studio light work. So it's really a full spectrum of photography. About 248 pages, 209 photos. And it's not only photos. I did add some inspirational text and stories from some of the shoots in it too, to give a bit of context to the shoots. It's made to inspire, keeping the inspiring part from the Instagram. But it also, the why of the book was to get out of your phones and to come back to what photography is meant to be. It's meant to be printed. Before digital, you would not see a photo until it was printed. So there is no digital version of the book. There is no PDF. It's a printed book only. And it's meant for people to just get off their phone and enjoy photography, print it, just take the time to be present and reconnect with the art itself without the million other notifications on their phone and the scrolling. It's already been shipped to 20 countries. So I'm quite happy about that. It's starting I am 21. Yesterday I got a new country. Sorry. So yeah, it's spreading around the world. So I'm really happy because this is my goal, to spread art around the world and inspire others to create more.
And where can listeners get a copy of the book?
On my website. I guess will be in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put it there.
Yeah, I ship worldwide, and you can have a signed copy too, possible.
Oh, fantastic. So just to wrap up, I have one final question. On Art versus the Algorithm, we've got a tradition with the final question. I want you to pick a body part from the list that I'm going to give you. Each one corresponds to a question. Once I've asked you that question, I'll then ask you to fill in the gap with your own question, which I'll ask a future guest. And that question can be fun or really serious. It's completely up to you. It's anonymous. So the body parts are neck, legs, shoulder, hands, or hips?
Hips.
Okay, hips. Was that because of the replacement?
Yeah, I have a very strong connection with my hips.
So what one thing would you change about the direction that humanity is going in?
I will change this whole AI, fakeness, robots. We are so disconnecting ourselves from who we are as a human and connection to nature. And all this AI thing is scary.
I'm inclined to agree with you there. Definitely. Nicely summed up. I think a lot of people will also agree with you. It seems like every time I see any kind of post that's about creativity and AI together, the first comment is something about reminding us about being humans, and it's liked by about 10,000 people every single time.
Completely disconnecting from who we are. We are meant to be connected with nature and not with computers and robots.
I suppose it's important to remember that and consciously
Yes.
make sure that we do that ourselves amongst the noise of what we're supposed to be doing. But thank you so much for answering that question and for sharing your beautiful work with us and being a guest on Art versus the Algorithm. I've been inspired listening to you and researching your work, especially when it comes to my personal approach to discipline. That was one thing I was like, oh, I'm fascinated by. I don't feel like I'm as disciplined as I'd like to be, and I move through phases with it. And to hear from someone that's like been trained in being as disciplined as you are, it's very inspiring. So thanks for giving us all the opportunity to learn and be inspired by your journey through social media and by doing things like this. I'm really excited to follow your work further and to see where it leads you. So yeah, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Art versus the algorithm. So, which side are you on? You've been listening to Art versus the Algorithm, hosted and produced by Will Preisner, edited by Robbie Mortimer, voiceover by Alexia Kombu, and music by Ned Wolfgang Kelly.